Here on the channel, I've created 2 videos that share different features of Scrivener that you may not have known about. They each have 10 different features, and as it turns out, as you may already know, Scrivener has a lot of features, and I wasn't able to cover all of them. So I'm back with 10 more. We'll talk about color coding your comments, adjusting Scrivener's appearance, tidying your text, and more, so stick around. Hey, if you're new to the channel, I'm Brad Beaulieu, and I'm a full-time fantasy and science fiction author with a dozen novels, tons of short stories, and 20 plus years of experience in the field of writing. I started A Novel Approach to share some of the hard-earned lessons I learned about writing, editing, publishing, and the business of writing. If any of that sounds up your alley, be sure to subscribe. And if you find this video useful, I hope you'll like, share, and maybe even buy me a coffee on ko-fi.com, link in the description below. Before we dive into our 10 hidden features of Scrivener, I wanted to let you know that I'm writing a book on writing. It's called The 3 Pillars: World, Character, and Plot, and my goal is to take all the lessons I've learned over the years and boil them down to practical advice you can use to write speculative fiction, whether that's fantasy, science fiction, or horror. I'm planning a Kickstarter for the ebook and trade paperback, possibly an audio edition as well, and some other goodies too. And my plan is to launch that Kickstarter later this year. I'll include a link in the description so you can go to that launch page over on Kickstarter to be notified when the Kickstarter launches. It's going to be another take on the same things I'm covering on the channel, but more of a front-to-end look at how you can brainstorm, write, and edit a novel. Okay, let's move on to our features. The first hidden feature of Scrivener I want to show you is color coding your comments. And this came from somebody who watched a previous hidden features video and mentioned this in the comment on the video. And so I want to bring this up because it's super useful. Thank you, whoever that was. I forget your name right off the top of my head. But essentially what you can do is go to your comments. So here I'm using one of the previous Scrivener projects I've had and I've used in these videos, and I have a number of comments already. This is a partial manuscript of a book I'm working on coming out after my next one in the Book of the Holt series. And I have a number of comments here, and I'm going to start with a kind of a bonus feature. You can change the zoom level of the comments and footnotes. The easiest way to do it is to right-click on an area that isn't a comment. So here we have a bunch of space down here. So I'm going to click in that real estate, and it just comes up with a zoom. So I can either use the editor zoom, whatever it's set to, it's 300%. So let me try that. Or if that's a little bit too large at this point, you can change it to something else. Now, notice I don't have any more real estate left. I can't click in the background. So what I can do is click on any comment, and at the bottom, there's a zoom. And so let me go to like 150. Let me try 200. That's pretty good. It's pretty similar to what I have in the main editor, but it doesn't become overwhelming in terms of how much space each of these takes up. And so I have these comments here, and I can then right-click on any one of them and change it to some other color. So I could change this one to red. I could change that one to blue. And so the point here is you could have a scheme for your comments. If you were working with a beta reader who happened to be using Scrivener as well, or you're collaborating on some project with another writer, you could make sure that your comments are set to one color and theirs are in another. You could also do something like set your first round comments to red and the second round comments to blue. As you move through the manuscript and address things, you'll probably delete the comments, and you can just click on the little X here and it goes away. But you'll still have a record of those that remain of when they were added to the manuscript, more or less. And it does keep track of the color you have set. So the last one I used was blue. So let me just try it out. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go to add a comment. It adds a new one, and we can see that the color is already set to blue. So I didn't have to set that again. It just remembers from the last time you changed it. You could also have this be something like a type of comment, a type of change, a type of instruction for yourself later. Like some things could be plot issues, some things could be character issues, some things could be related to like the world. You could make these colors mean whatever you like, but it's great having that ability just to visually see which ones are which at a glance. Okay, the second hidden feature I want to show you is click dragging. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can use that. So I've covered before, but I'll just cover it here again quickly. You can, of course, move things around in your binder, for example, on the left-hand side here. So if you want to move a document from one folder to another, no problem. If you want to move a folder from one place to another, you can do that too, of course. This is pretty standard functionality for any folder type structure, but you can also do things like move a document or even a folder from one project to another. So here, for example, I have my Well of Ancients example, and I have this other show labels things I created for a previous video. Let me just bring this big lessons thing here from one to the other. So I'm just going to click and drag it up to this title bar. And if you hover it there long enough, it will switch. And I'm still holding it down. So now I can drag it over to, let's see, this new folder I've created. And it pops that document into wherever I've placed it in the binder. You can also move folders. So if I wanted to move this entire world stuff, these notations I have, like maybe I'm writing a novella in the same world that I wrote a novel in. I could, of course, copy the previous Scrivener project and get all that stuff for free, but if you created something from scratch, you can easily move things from one place to another. So I'll just grab this world folder, pull it over to the show labels, bring it over to my binder again and let go. And now I have the entire world and the subdocuments along with it. Really nice, easy way to move things around between projects if you need to. If you use Scrivener links to jump from one document to another quickly, you can also click and drag a document from the binder over to a document that you're viewing in one of the editors. And if I do that and let go, it just creates a link. The text it sets to the title of that document, and then it becomes an active link. So if I click on that, I will be taken over to that other document. And in this case, it opened up this second editor. So this editor on the left is driving the one on the right. Now I happen to pull the same document. Let me pull a different one in. So maybe I'm making some notes on the epilogue and I just pull that epilogue over here. Now if I click on this epilogue link, it will open up the epilogue on the right-hand side. And so if you're taking notes, for example, this is called draft one editing notes. And that's one of my common things for each draft. I'll create a new notes document that contains kind of like larger level things I need to address. I can make my note and then just quickly click drag the particular chapter that I'm worried about. So if I create a new bullet point here and I'm making a note about interview with Jasper, I can just drag that over so that if I want, I can then use the left-hand side for looking through my notes and then clicking and bringing that up quickly on the right-hand side. So if I click on this interview with Jasper, it just brings it up in the other editor. Note that we have a different size because our zoom levels are slightly different, so we can obviously adjust that if we need to. You can do a very similar thing with bookmarks. If you use bookmarks, they are shown right here, and they're listed here. It's just a quick way to get between documents again. So if you don't want to use links, you could use bookmarks. And so I could grab the epilogue and pull it over here, and it does the exact same thing. And it does show a quick view of it over here. We can also double click on these, and that will bring it up in a quick view editor. And we can look at what we need to, even edit things, and then get rid of this and go back to whatever we're doing. So click dragging works with bookmarks as well. You can also create new documents. So let's say I wanted to split up a chapter because it's a little bit too large and I'm going to make two different scenes for it. So let me just go to the bottom, for example, and I'm going to click drag just this last little bit here for an example. It's now selected, and that means I can click and drag it, and I can pull it over to the binder and let go, and it creates a new document, and it moves that text to that new document with a title of, I think, the first sentence. And of course you can change that. So I'll change that title to new ending, and the document contents are what I moved over, the text I moved over. So now if I click on this folder, I should see two scenes. So if I scroll down towards the bottom here, I see I have a standard divider between text, between two different scenes. And in the printed text, that would be like a double space. Or sometimes publishers will put explicit markers that show that a scene is changing. In any case, this allows you to quickly divide documents up and create new documents over in the binder. You can do a similar thing with text between two editors. So let's say on the left-hand side, I have that first scene, and in the right-hand side, click over there and I click that new ending. And now I have both of them. So on the left is kind of the larger text that I pulled from earlier. And maybe I decide that it doesn't have enough over here. And so I want the new scene to be that much plus what I already have. So I just select that text, click, drag it over to the other editor, and it moves it all. So just a nice, easy way to move text around as well. Now, let me undo that really quickly. It's common with click drag functionality to have an option to copy instead of move. And in Scrivener's case on the Mac, it's option click drag. So if I hit the option key, let me grab this over here. My cursor app makes it grow big when I do the option key, but I'm pressing the option key now, and then I'm click dragging this over to the right-hand side. And this time when I let go, it copies it instead of moves it. So just a different option, kind of more or less the same functionality, but we're just doing a copy instead of a move. The third feature I want to show you is custom icons. Let's say I want to create a timeline document. So I go over to my binder and then I'm just going to hit enter. That'll create a new document. I'll call this timeline. Maybe I notate the different events that have happened in history that I want to notate for my story. But I don't like having just a blank page as the icon. If we look at it here, it's just a blank page. If I add text, it would look like this big lessons document with the mini text in there, but I don't want that. I'm going to right click here and I can go down to change icon. And so maybe I want to do like a calendar icon or perhaps a clock, just to easily see that this is something different than the normal documents. And so I can change that at will. And I can do it with anything. I could do it with the stuff in the manuscript as well. If I go to change icon, make this a TV of some kind, it'll change it. It'll do it for any of the documents or folders in the binder. So you can change that at will. It does also allow for custom icons. So if I go to change icon, I can see this manage custom icons. I have not looked into detail about what sort of format you have to create to make a custom icon, but if that's of interest, you can put that in there. You can also change an icon based on text, and what it's going to do is show you the favicons that it has on your platform. Again, I'm on the Mac. I'm not 100% sure this works on the PC, but you can just right click and see what options you have available. But I could change this to a little dragon instead of the current icon. So you can see it changed it there. And then if you don't like what it has, you could change it, or you can just go back to the default. So reset icon to default. And so it goes back to that blank page for this particular one. The fourth hidden feature of Scrivener is adjusting the appearance. So if you go under Scrivener, there's appearance, and we're going to talk about theme in just one second, but let's stay with appearance for now. So you can go with the system default. These are the basic light or dark options. So you can use whatever your system is if you change it now and again, or you can just go explicitly light or dark. So I'm in dark, obviously, but I can go to light, in which case it blasts me with light. I don't use this because I have floaters and it's super obvious when I have a white background. And so I keep the dark background instead. So let me go back to dark. And then if I come back here to appearance, you have one more option if it is dark. Some people like to have the pages look like regular printed pages. So you might have most of it be dark, but then you can keep the main editors light, in which case it changes just those. We can see the margins now. We can see the size of the page. And if I zoom out a little bit, it'll change that accordingly. And if I go to like my manuscript, we can see how that looks now. It's just a different view, and you might find this more useful for you. Mostly dark, but with the light colored editors. The fifth hidden feature, which I mentioned a moment ago, are themes. You can choose the default theme, but it does have these other ones that I believe are built in. I don't think I installed these myself, but you can import additional themes. So even if they're not there, you can import some, which you can download some from Literature and Latte. So let me just show you Midsummer Night. And the dark ones, the dark themes, are the ones with the little moon icon. So if I click on that one, it'll change how this looks. Kind of a muted feel to it instead of a real stark, dark theme. Or I could go for something lighter, like Purple Haze. So pretty subtle, just kind of an off-white type of theme. So you can play with those to find something that suits you a little bit better and kind of gives you a nicer environment to work in while you're writing. The sixth feature I want to share with you are layouts. Scrivener keeps track of the different layouts for the inspector, the editors, and the binder for each of the project instances you have open. So here I could make my editor quite small and my inspector quite large. But if I flip over to this show labels project, it's different. And of course, we're looking at different things. It has different contents in that project. What may happen sometimes is that when you open a project, it's not how you like it, or you were making a bunch of changes last time and you like things to be a certain way. And so you can kind of snap this in place. And so let me just go to double editors. I'll make this a little bit smaller over here. I'll make this larger over here. And I'll go to window, and then I can see this layouts. So I can manage layouts, or I can go to any of the ones that are pre-configured. So let me go to manage layouts. And so here I can add a new one, and you can give it a name. So I'll call it new layout. That's super hard to see because it's a yellow, white text on yellow, but it should be there now. So this has stored for future use all the sizes of the windows, the fact that there's two editors, and so on. So if I close this window and go back to window layouts, I can see I have my new layout there. Now, if I click on that, nothing's going to happen now because I just saved it. But let me go over to this other side here. And I'm going to go again to window layouts. New layout is still there, so I can apply it to any project. It doesn't matter where I created it. It just matters where I currently am, which project I'm currently focused on, and it will apply that to that current instance of the project. So I'll just select new layout. Note that it knew that it had two editors, and so it opened two editors in this project. The left one wherever I was currently, and the right one is just defaulted to the manuscript. So if I go back over here, here's my other one. And here's the Well of Ancients example. All the data that we have is, of course, related to this project. It does also not change things like the zoom levels on the editors. Over when we snapped it, it was the 300% over here, 250 over here. So it doesn't capture absolutely everything, but it's really nice because I use Scrivener on a MacBook Pro, and sometimes I use it off of the extra monitor that I have in my office. I go to a coffee shop and write, for example. And so I may have one layout for being away from the office and another one for being in the office. And another odd thing that happens is whenever I reboot and restart, it sometimes starts Scrivener over on my laptop monitor, which is quite a bit smaller. And then I click drag Scrivener over to my larger monitor, and all of the windows and the sizings are messed up. So whenever that happens, I just go to window layouts and I have this standard wide, which is my standard layout, which is very similar to what we see here. So it's just a nice way to get things into your standard look and feel that you're most productive in. The seventh feature in Scrivener is text to speech. Let me go to a scene here, and I'll go to the first one, and I'll just click here, and then I'll go to edit speech, and then start speaking. So it's just going to read this, interpret it, and say it aloud.
Rhiannon Bloodhaven gripped the rough leather saddle loops as the mighty onyx dragon Iracundus beat the late summer air with her broad wings and soared through the Holt's great citadel trees. In the saddle in front of her was Maladox, a burly man in his late 40s with broad shoulders, unruly hair, and a long...
So pretty robotic. I'm not sure how widely this functionality will be used, but oddly enough, maybe there are sections where you want to have it read to you, and having it robotic might actually help you to pick up on mistakes. Just as an example of what's out there in the world, I use 11 Labs to convert my videos so that I can get the transcripts from them to create subtitles and also to identify like bad takes and weed those out programmatically. But 11 Labs, along with plenty of other competitors, has a text-to-speech functionality. So I'm going to put the same text in there. Let me just show you what this sounds like with a more advanced voice and interpreter. So I'll just do generate speech, and it has a certain voice. I could change that if I want to something else.
Bloodhaven gripped the rough leather saddle loops as the mighty onyx dragon Iracundus beat the late summer air with her broad wings and soared through the Holt's great citadel trees. In the saddle in front of her was Maladox, a burly man in his late 40s.
So it's quite a bit different, a lot more advanced, approaching human speech. Not quite there, but awfully good. It might be worth getting a sample login for like 11 Labs or something else. So just trying to compare the two for you. The 8th feature I want to show you is text tidying. If you go under Edit, and towards the bottom, there's this text tidying. And so there's a number of things that you can do, like delete struck through text. There actually isn't any right now, but you might have an editor, or you yourself might mark things for deletion later on. And so if I go here and I want to get rid of this, I can right click on this, go to font, and do strike through. So I have to select the text first. So if I come here, and I could select the whole thing, of course, I could do Command A, select everything, go back to Edit, Text Tidying, and delete struck through text. And so it just goes and deletes them, any that it finds in that text that you've selected. Let me undo that, and I'll undo that change as well. And there are some others too. So this is something you might want to do before handing it into your editor or agent or perhaps beta readers. So you can renumber paragraphs if there are numbered paragraphs. You can replace multiple spaces with single spaces. That's one of my bugaboos. A number of these are. So if somebody edited your document and added double spaces in a bunch of places, it'll go through and get rid of those. So just add those, and then I'll go back under Edit, Text Tidying, replace multiple spaces with single. So we can see that it changed those 3 places that I had. One more is remove empty lines between paragraphs. So if you, like me, don't like any extra stuff in my document, I might have some enters here just by accident or something, like I was editing and I forgot to remove things, and maybe you want to get rid of those. So I can then go under Edit, Text Tidying, remove empty lines. So it just goes and gets rid of them. We also have remove page breaks. Strip leading tabs. That's another one I really hate because you can't see them. So if I add one here, there might be a paragraph that's like this. It has the no indent on the first line, and so somebody added a tab manually. So it kind of looks like a regular sort of paragraph, but it's not. It doesn't have the same indent that it's supposed to have. And so it could go and find those. So if I go under Edit, Text Tidying, and strip leading tabs, it got rid of that first one I added here, and then here, this one shows up as fully left justified, no indentation for that paragraph. So I could then go and fix that paragraph by adding that indent. And then there's one more. There is zap gremlin. So the most common case for this to happen is if you're doing an import into Scrivener from some other source. You might have exported to like a rich text file, RTF, or you might be pulling in from a PDF into Scrivener. There are import capabilities in Scrivener. And so there might be some things that are not working in terms of, say, printing it to a printer. It might have some funny characters that suddenly show up, or it stops printing, or it has blank pages, or you might be doing a compile and that stops at a certain point and it just doesn't go any farther. And so one of the things that you probably should do if you import a bunch of stuff from external sources is go to Edit, Text Tidying, and do zap gremlins. That'll just get rid of all the invisible but existent characters in your text. The 9th hidden feature I want to show you is the built-in lookups, the reference tools. So we can select a bit of text and right-click on it, and towards the bottom there's this reference tools, and I can do, for example, lookup in dictionary and thesaurus. It'll bring up the system dictionary and thesaurus. It's just a dictionary app on the Mac, and it just brings up that particular word or set of words. And on the Mac, you can do the dictionary, thesaurus, Wikipedia. I can look up that word in French if it happens to be French. So it's just a very quick way of bringing up a definition, for example. We can also search with Spotlight. So this is on the Mac a way to search through your drives and folders and documents for a particular set of text. So I could do that if I wanted to. I could search with Google. I can search in Wikipedia. So just a really fast way to bring up different reference tools while you're in your documents. I saved the best one for last. The 10th feature I want to show you is the name generator. So if we go under Edit, Reference Tools, right at the bottom is this name generator. And the name generator allows you to select different nationalities that have different first names, different surnames. You can look for male, female, or either. And let me just hit generate names. So I have 50 selected right now. I could select more or less of them if I wanted to. Let's do 43 names. I'll generate them. And it goes ahead and from its dictionary of various nationalities, it will generate a first name and last name up to the number that you have selected. But you have a bunch of different options that are kind of fun. So you can attempt alliteration. So generate names, and we can see Joseph James, Lily Lopez, Olivia Owen. If you've ever been in a situation where you have just kind of a number of characters that you're trying to figure out who they should be, this is pretty useful, especially for kind of modern names. These aren't so great for fantasy, although you can add new dictionaries. Down here, if you click this little plus, you can add a custom name list. So you could have one for your fantasy novels. But the ones that are here are pretty widespread. They cover things like Finnish, Italian, Japanese, popular British names, etc., etc. There's this fun obscurity level thing too. Low obscurity means they're fairly common names. So I'll use the same settings I have right now and I'll go to more obscure. So this is less obscure and more obscure over here. So I'll go all the way over and I'll just regenerate. So Liza Lemine or Lemon, Belinda Bettles, Rhett Radcliffe, etc., etc. So that'll change based on whatever you select here. You can set the forename to something, set the surname to something. Double-barreled surnames are kind of fun too. If I generate this again, James Judd Johnson. It's still trying to do that alliteration. Let me get rid of that and do it one more time. Charlie Simpkin Granger, Heather Castillo, Stapleton, etc. Forenames can use initials only if you want to. So it just has that initial in the beginning there. So can be super useful as you're generating kind of random characters throughout your story. I hope you find those features useful. If so, I hope you'll like and share this video with other writers and writer groups especially. That really helps to grow the channel. I have a ton of videos I hope to tackle soon, including some writing cheat codes, where book openings go wrong, and more. So hit subscribe to be notified when those come out. Until next time, dream big, stay positive, and keep writing. Peace, everyone.